Christianity, our Shawshank, and our redemption.
All right, now listen up.
3, 2, 1.
It's showtime. That's great. This is ridiculous.
99.3 The Truth.
You can't handle the truth. Right now. Ooh.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it.
Hit it.
It's time for Mac's World. And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
It's showtime, everybody! Showtime!
Exclusively on 99.3 The Truth.
It's 3:07 on the second day of September in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. I'm looking for my pen. Thank you, Bob. You took my pen. All right, it is Friday. Fridays are 15% more fun, and we thought we'd have a lot of fun today. And we've got one of my favorite people in the studio, Frank, and also our guest, Tamara Scott. And Tamara is currently, let's get a shot of Tamara, because she's currently loving up on my puppy, Picasso, who comes to the studio with me every day. And she knows a dog lover when she sees one. He's a sweetheart. He likes you. Now, he's just going to sit down in your lap.
That's okay.
And he'll sit there the whole day if you let him.
All righty.
Do you have pets at home?
An 80-pound lab.
Okay. Well, what he does is when he smells an animal on another person that's in this studio, he'll cuddle up to them.
There we are.
Yeah, he'll lay down by your feet or whatever. You'll be his favorite all day. Okay, Friday. Frank, we almost didn't do the show yesterday with you gone.
I heard.
We got on the radio, and Chris and I said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And Chris said, Adrian! You know, he was calling out for you in that, but Chris was going, Frank!
I heard him.
Yeah. And what were you doing? Oh, you were making money.
I was on my way back from Kansas City trying to hear when our signal was picking up.
Oh, well,
does it make it to Kansas City?
I actually heard Spencer Caroff 15 miles in the Missouri border.
You did?
Yep.
Wow.
But it was brief. And then when I got across the Iowa border...
Everything. And anytime Spencer talks, you hear him only briefly.
When I got across the Iowa border, I heard a J. Michael McCoy commercial.
Uh-oh.
But it didn't get really strong until about 10 miles from Osceola.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. We should drop about 60 miles south.
But you've got a good radio, man. My radio just seems terrible.
Actually, I was driving a Honda Civic.
Oh, yeah, that Civic I used to have. Civic used to be.
Why didn't they give you an Accord? Because, Jesus came in an Accord. All in an Accord.
That's right. In one Accord.
What is that, Romans, I think?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, we are going to talk. We're going to talk about religious freedom today because... I'm passionate about that. And when I get Tamara in the studio, there's only two things to talk about. Her incredibly baked cookies, which she does a wonderful job on it. You didn't bring them, though, did you?
I almost did.
All right, what are my favorites again?
Well, you like my toffee.
Oh, that's right.
You like my chocolate
I actually like your chocolate toffee more than I like my favorite cookies. But my favorite cookies are soft oatmeal, butterscotch, and chocolate chip.
All in the same cookie? In the same cookie?
All in the same cookie. But make them soft, so you don't bake them hard.
Right.
Yeah, you know that. All right. Frank?
And, of course, I made the mistake down at the Skywalk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I got in a drawer and ate a few, and I got chewed.
Oh, my toffee?
Oh, yeah, because I held on to them for months.
You did,
And I just like little pieces. And one day I get in there, and Frank's sitting at my desk, and he's eating like 3 pieces of your chocolate toffee.
And I got chewed out for like forever.
Well, not forever.
Oh, it was good. You just don't do that no more.
Right. All right. Religious liberties, religious freedoms. I don't know what do you think they were talking about 100 years ago when religious freedom or religious rights were discussed in 1916?
Well, because there's nothing new under the sun according to the scriptures. I would say they were talking about the same things we'll talk about today. And that's being forced or to worship in a way you don't wish, or forced or not able to worship in a way that you would choose. And so I think it's the same thing we're dealing with today.
And one of my, well, I guess it's just so close to me, is Dick and Betty Odegaard with the Gortz House. To me, that is a plain, blatant example of the government overreaching into our First Amendment rights and religious freedom.
You're absolutely right. And I should have studied up today before I came in, but it's not just them. That's not an isolated case. We obviously have the Hobby Lobby case that they had to take them to court to actually prove that they were right. But out west, we've had the cake bakers, we've had the florist. And in the cake bakers, I think it was, not only did they force them out of business as they forced Dick and Betty out of business, but then they went after them financially. And this is a new frightening area I've seen out of our government. Fining individuals, fining private citizens and business owners because for no other reason than the government doesn't like your view.
Yeah.
That's exactly what our founding fathers were talking about in the 1600s.
We can't do that.
We shouldn't, and that's what that First Amendment is to protect us from.
Yeah, well, here's what I want to do with you today, sitting in your car or driving or at home or in your new hot tub. Whatever you may be doing today. Well, Jill and Randy got a new hot tub.
That was pretty specific. I figured it had to be.
It's like 90 degrees outside, and they're in the hot tub.
So listen, but keep the radio dials away from the tub.
That's right.
That's right.
If
electricity and water don't mix.
But battery-operated radios are okay. There's not enough juice in batteries to electrocute you if they fall into the water.
Bob is nodding. Is that true?
That is true.
Bob would know.
Was it just a buzz? Just a little adds to the bubbles?
There's not enough power in batteries to give you a buzz.
No, not even an ever-ready bunny buzz?
Well, I don't want to test that out.
If you're listening out there, we advise you not to try this at home.
Thank you, Tamara. Because I'm sitting here going, I really want to get a battery-operated radio and drop it in the bathtub.
If, Jill has become a media superstar. She's on the radio, and I talk about her, and I talk about her on the show on that other station. And so people want her autographs, and they're stopping by her place in Boone and stuff like that. So, Randy may want to just say, I'm done with this 50-year marriage and throw a electric radio in the hot tub. So we just put that out there, Randy. Don't do it. Randy, look into my eyes. Randy, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. Here's what I want to do with you folks at home. I want to
Thank you, Tamara. That was appropriate laughter.
I want to open the phone lines at 515-244-0077, and I want you to call and tell me an example where you think our religious rights are flying out the window with this administration or with the current, with the current state of society. Or if you don't want your voice to be heard, you can text them to Bob on the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. 515-809-0993. Where do you think we are being, our religious freedoms and our religious rights are being challenged? Maybe not successfully, but they're being challenged. Now, we've got a huge case right here in Des Moines with Michael Damastis and his
Fort Des Moines Church of Christ.
Thank you very much. And you know a little bit about that case.
A little bit.
What is that about?
Well, some of the rulings that have come out of, Obama's transgender bathroom policy, which is just a policy and an idea. He has no power in which to mandate such, and he doesn't no control of the purse. The Congress does. So it's just a statement at this point, but unfortunately some schools are already coming along. Michael was asking, and you may know more, Chris, but our bathrooms church is going to be forced to do this. And I think what they were told was, no, not for your church services, your worship activities, but if you do anything that's not worship, where the community is invited in, which could be any of their public things that they do, that a church is frankly called to do, then yes, they may be forced to, if that's what I understood it to be.
Yeah, and the difficulty of that is that's incredibly subjective.
Yes.
Some of the report that I was reading, even in the Register, the way this was being discussed was, those will be determined as needed. So it really just comes up to if the Iowa Civil Liberties Commission decides that what you were doing was public, then they can enforce whatever rule they want.
And here's the danger. The subjective is who?
Right.
The government.
Right.
You're going to have to seek permission from the government for your calendar at your church.
Sure, yeah.
Your
right.
church will no longer be able to just minister to its community around and do community events like a church is supposed to do.
Right.
And the other difficulty there is that in 2006, a Democratic majority put SOGI, what we call sexual orientation, gender identity, in the code for Iowa as a protected class. That adds to the difficulty for Christian businesses, Christian organizations, and churches to be protected.
And eventually, what's the goal
of the government?
Well, yeah, when it comes to religious freedom, are they trying to drive us underground?
Absolutely. That should be evident to everybody. I don't have a memo with that written on it, but that should be evident to everybody out there. And what made this country great, we're seeing this right now with the quarterback who's refusing to stand for the anthem.
Klippenhofer.
Well, let's be clear. That's not a religious issue. This is not a religious issue. He's doing this to make a political statement, and if his employers are foolish enough to give him time and money to make political statements on their paycheck, that's up to them. But I don't know where I was headed with that.
Well, the latest. Have you heard the latest on that? Yesterday, he went out on a field. I guess there was a game last night. Is that what it was? Yeah. And he had socks on that demeaned police officers.
I was in practice. It was during practice.
Oh, okay. He didn't wear.
But he was on the field. Yeah.
And the Dallas Cowboys
were not allowed.
Yeah, they wanted to have a sticker on their helmet saying they support blue lives.
Right.
And
they weren't allowed to do that.
Well, of course not. You can't. Every single individual in the NFL or any other professional sport who's tried to do what Klippenhofer's doing,
right,
eventually either lost their job or was fined and eventually didn't play.
So what you're saying is what Klippenheimer is doing is not. Kaepernick. What's his? Poor guy.
I don't believe in his contract he can do that.
And here's my question. I've heard that he's converted to Islam. Again, this is not a faith question.
Yeah. All right. We're coming up on our first break. I want to hear from you. 515-244-0077. Where do you think your religious rights are being infringed upon by the government, the great U.S. of A. that we all so dearly love and honor?
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
21 minutes after 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, y'all.
What was that?
I don't know. It started out to be kind of like
Norwegian?
Transylvania, and I tried. It kind of ended up Norwegian. You know? Hey, hoser. Second day of September in the Lord's year 2016. Hey, after the week we've had here, don't you think today was going to be fun? We've been rocking this week. I don't know if you're a new listener or a regular listener, but this show, which basically started under this format a little more than a year ago, it's just very, in the business world, it's very successful. I don't care what it is in the business world anymore. I used to care a lot. Now I care what it is in God's will. And we have been rocking in God's will all week long because we have been talking about faith-based stuff rather than political, even though today we're kind of on political. But, man, did I get a lot of feedback on that question, can Satan repent?
Oh yeah, got some had someone come in the studio this morning that said, "Oh, and by the way,"
yeah,
wanted to weigh in on that.
And what'd they say?
That you're a loony.
Did you get the audio from Hank that you was going to get?
Oh, no, I have not. I apologize. Thank you, sir. I will get right on that, sir.
All right, let me also say that Jill has chimed in. She's whispering. I don't know if she doesn't want Randy to hear it or not, but still in the wiring phase. Don't worry, Mac. I feel safe. Or I did. And then in bold type, when churches had outhouses, were they male or female? All right, let's go to the phones where Vicky is standing by. Vicky, you're live in Mac's World. How are you today, Vicky?
Tamara, you're going to need.
Hello, Vicky. My guess is Jeb got the name wrong. If you're holding on the phone right now, you may speak.
Oh, would that be me?
That would be you. And what's your name?
Dick with a D.
Dick with a P.
With a D.
D, like Richard.
David, yes.
All right. How are you, Dick?
So far, so good.
Are you a new caller?
I'm a new caller.
Thank you very much. I know this is going to sound bizarre, but doing this as long as I have, I can usually recognize voices and then put them with names, and I recognize yours as a new voice. So I absolutely want to hear what you have to say about the religious freedom issue.
Well, it's as though every other faith, and Jews, every other faith other than Judeo-Christian is being supported and condoned and actually uplifted, and we're being knocked down and called bigots and bad people because of what we believe. I would say that offhand we're actually treading back into a period of what I would call moral darkness, where we're going to be the oppressed ed.
Well, you know, Dick, it's interesting that when I bring that up to pastors, most of the time, and I don't know what most is, more than 50, not 100%. Most of the time, I think about Ryan Jorgensen or Michael Damastis or Spencer Karoff or Michael Mudloff or any of those pastors. Most of the time when that's brought up to them, they get excited. They get wide-eyed because they see the church going into revival mode and not running and hiding, but yet standing strong on the gospel, There are obviously those out there that turn it political, and I'm okay with that. But when they're preaching the gospel, they get all excited because hopefully that's a chance for revival.
But, you know, I'll challenge you on that because I think what a lot of folks are thinking that is once the
Wait, didn't anybody give her the rules that I don't get challenged?
No, sorry, you didn't pass that out. I forgot to give her the brochure.
Fine.
Did nobody warn you I don't follow rules?
Yeah, I know. You and I both.
My kindergarten report card said so. A lot of these folks are thinking that once we have to go underground, only the serious Christians, like China, only the serious Christians will then admit their faith or participate in their faith, and those who are just pew sitters will fall away and will know. Like that's going to bring the revival. That's not necessarily what's going to bring a revival. You don't have to have the persecution. It often comes from persecution. But if we would tune into the Holy Spirit, we could have revival without having to have this persecution. And I don't think people are realizing how difficult it may get before we experience that revival. How many people have to lose their business? How many people have to be fined? How many people will suffer in prison before we get to that stage of revival?
Do you think that in God's eyes the revival has begun, and
I do.
We just haven't figured out that we're
I sense it
in the history of or in the process of making history?
I get to travel through Iowa and meet with little groups all over. Some are political, others are faith-based.
She's a Mary Kay person. That's why she says that.
I am not.
I know. You're the national
in the pink
Republican
Cadillac.
You're the national Republican chairwoman of the Republican Party for the state of Iowa.
Yes, and Mary Kay makes great products, but I am not a consultant.
Okay. Essential oils?
I do like essential oils, but again, I'm not a concealtant or
okay.
No.
All right.
So anyway, and I see it, I hear it, I hear a harmony of common factors being said in prayer pockets taking place, and not only in Iowa but all over the country. West Virginia, if you've seen the revival that took place last spring there in the schools in West Virginia, hundreds of kids coming forward to be saved. And here's my other thing for folks, if I can encourage you. I hear people say that revival has to start in the church, and I would tell you not necessarily, and not in the conventional church like we seem to think. It'll start in the hearts of men when God prompts them, and it could be anywhere. And I think if the church isn't paying attention, it's going to happen outside.
Today it's religious freedom and religious rights. Dick, I've got you on the phone. I want to give you the last word before we hang up.
I think she's talking about the great revivals of the 1700s that happened. They didn't originate in church buildings either. They were from the people on the street with the pastors preaching to them and raising them up.
You're absolutely right. And help me remember, the evangelist was outed and had to go out to was it Whitfield or Whitefield? But
Wakefield, I think, or something like that, or Whitfield.
Who was it? 80% of the colonists heard him preach.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about a day before we had the internet or television. It was in person they heard him preach.
Wow.
Yes, they rode horses overnight to places to get to preach each day.
Well, Dick, I appreciate you listening to the radio station, and your voice is always welcome here. And when you call Jebediah, even though Jebediah is only 21, he's really hard of hearing. So you have to go very slowly, Wabbit, to make sure he hears your name correctly, okay, Vicky or Dick?
He liked rock music, eh?
No, he attracted you as a Vicky for some reason. Or Vic. You thought it was Vic.
Yeah, I thought it was Vic.
Well, Dick, you're not a Vic, you're a Dick, and we thank you.
Okie dokie.
Thanks for calling today, all right?
Thank you.
All right, let's go to the next line where Jessica is standing by. I just talked about Wabbits. Here's Jessica. You're live in Max World. How you doing, Jessica?
I'm wonderful. Happy Sabbath.
Oh, yeah, right. Happy Sabbath.
So, religious freedom. I mean, when I think about religious freedom, I think about, can I worship when I want to? Can I go to church on Saturday and worship God on Saturday because that's when I believe the Sabbath is? Yes, I can. Can I go to a building and worship Him in my church? Yes, I can. Can I walk around on the street and say Happy Sabbath? Can I call your radio show and say Happy Sabbath? Yes, I can. Can I tell my job I can't work on Saturday because that's the Sabbath? And can they legally fire me? Well, they probably could, but could I fight it back in court? Absolutely. So to me, until those particular things start being imprisonable or cops are knocking on my door and saying, give me your Bible and you can't go to church on Saturday, or shutting down my churches, those to me are religious freedoms that I think about. When like the last guy, Dick, said, well, these things are being uplifted and they're talking about gay this and gay that. That's just gay people being able to voice their freedom in life. Just because someone else is voicing freedom doesn't take away my freedom to say the same thing. And so my son, he says, well, you can't say anything against a gay person because then you're called a bigot or you're called this, you're called that. Well, sure, but what does that do to me? So I can speak out against homosexuality. I have that freedom. I have freedom to go up to a gay person and say, I believe what you are doing is immorally and biblically wrong. Now, they can turn around and tell me that I hate them or that I'm a bigot or that I'm a Bible thumper. Cool. That's your freedom to do. So I'm practicing my freedom. They're practicing theirs. So I don't see how people practicing their freedom is infringing on my religious freedoms whatsoever. I may not like it. It may disgust me. It may make me think that, they're an immoral person, but it still does not infringe on my religious freedom for them to practice their life.
Tell that to the Odegaards who lost their business. Tell that to the cake decorator who not only lost her business but was cleaned out financially. You can't work at Principal Financial any longer and have your religious views because you will be reprimanded, you could be demoted, and you could face being fired. So,
and those are issues right there that people are need to get an attorney. I mean, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. So the history of my church has been that people have been fired from their jobs because they have said that they can't work on the Sabbath. But we have attorneys that work for those people, and there are many, many lawsuits that people, Seventh-day Adventists particularly, have won because they've went up to bat against employers and said, no, it is my religious freedom to say that I cannot work on the Sabbath, and they've won. So it comes time for Christians to stop trying to suppress other people and just stand up for their own rights and not try to infringe on someone else's to be able to get their own.
Let's come back to the history of this country, the heritage and foundation of this country, which was founded upon godly principles. We have quotes from our first president, George Washington, Jefferson, all of those who we revere as our founding fathers. It was on a Christian religion. It was on the right to worship. But there are laws in place that when that worship exceeds what's best for the national policy, for the people as a whole, then there's an issue. And so we've got to be careful on this because you now have a new group, the Muslims group, the Islamic group, who are pushing a wide swath of religious liberties that are not what this was entitled or meant to be. And we're going to have to be very careful because Islam is not just a religion. It is a military and political belief and system, and we have Sharia law, and some of those things are really going to impede and be used to silence Christians and to misuse what the First Amendment was about.
All right, Tim Overland is on the line. Tim, do me a favor. You hold on. I got Frank, who's got his hand up like a little kid in the back of the school. Ooh, choose me. I want to say something. Ooh, choose. And then, Tim, I'll have you live on the air.
Well, this isn't necessarily, this kind of goes back a few minutes in the conversation, but I think this verse in John 3:19 hits it right, the nail on the head. For this is the verdict, light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of the light because their deeds were evil. So this is the battleground. What's going on right now is the battle between light and dark. Those who want to suppress religious freedom, those who want to...
Standing by. I'm going to hold you through the break, Tim, and you'll be our first caller. 515-244-0077. Let's get passionate today. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's talk about it. Come on. It's your voice I want to hear. Where are your religious freedoms being challenged? You heard Jessica. She didn't feel anywhere. If Betty Odegaard were to call, she'd say, I lost them all. I lost them all. I lost them all. We're coming back. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on The Truth. The Truth, 99.3.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
22 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News at the top, and then we'll continue next hour in our conversation, our show-long conversation of religious liberties, religious rights, and what's happening to them. It's your voice we want to hear, 515-244-0077, or you can send a text at the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. I would ask that you put those in your Rolodex, your contacts, your whatever you do, your address book. 515-244-0077. That's the number you'd call to have your voice heard, or you could just tell Jebediah what you want. Man, I think if you call that line, I want you to come on the air. I mean, I can't force you. Jebediah will take your message. But if you just have something you want to text, you can do that. Put that number in your Rolodex, too, 515-809-0993. Let's go to the phones where Tim is standing by. Tim, the hashtag Never Trump guy. You're live in Max World.
That's my label today.
Well, I'm thinking about that because a week from today, we're going to have a special 2-hour show. And it's going to be the Never Trump, hashtag Never Trump people. And you've got like 4 of you coming in to explain why Trump should not be their guy. Now, let me ask you this. Do you want me to have like Tana Gertz or Eric Branstad or Donald Trump, somebody like that to... or do you just want... I mean, I'll do it either way. I don't need...
Mac, it's called Max World. We're just living in it, brother. So whatever you want to do, you do that. And I see you're trying to make friends with Tamara with me today. So, Tamara, this is not why I came on. I just want to throw that out there. I was going to actually agree with you today.
Well, and I didn't know we weren't friends. I still thought you were my buddy.
We're absolutely buddies.
You're just an accomplice to Hillary Clinton taking over America and destructing it. But
yes.
it's up to you.
Yes, you are.
Oh, man.
Yes,
but I still love you.
I knew this was going to get fun. Hey, you know what, Tim? Max said that you were calling, and I popped out in the break and got a new cup of coffee because I'm going to just sit back and enjoy this conversation. So, Tim, have a good one, buddy.
Hey, again, I'm gonna agree with Tamara. Stole my thunder a little bit. bit in that, immediately our friends Dick and Betty popped to mind when we started talking about religious liberty.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
You're cutting in and out for some reason on your phone.
Let me try speaker here real quick. Hang on.
Technology. Who would have thunk it? You could actually pick up something, hold it in your hand, and it doesn't have a wire, and you can call a radio station and be on the air and on the internet worldwide.
But don't throw it in the hot tub.
But don't throw it in the hot tub. Yeah.
Is this better?
This is better. Do you have anything more to say?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, immediately I went the same place I think that Tamara did, and let's talk with Dick and Betty, our friends Dick and Betty, about not losing their religious freedoms. And I think when I was listening to Jessica with her comments, she's kind of bouncing back and forth between two terms, and one of those terms is, we just mentioned Hillary, she embraces, and that's freedom to worship. And I think there's a big difference between freedom to worship and freedom of religion. There's a huge divide there. Yes, you can go to your church and worship so far. So far, your sermons aren't edited or needed to be viewed by a panel so far. But if we need to adjudicate those things, then those aren't rights any longer, and we shouldn't have to do that. So I think there's a big difference between freedom to worship and freedom of religion, and we need to be really careful about keeping those separate. Otherwise, we end up in battles like we are with the Second Amendment and life and all of those things, and I think we are. If we're letting judges determine that those are our rights, that's where we're in trouble.
Well, and I don't think it's too long until the activist judges who are already outside of the constitutional bounds, certainly outside of the biblical bounds, at some point, say what you might about Bob Vanderplatz, but he made it happen. He stood up and said, wait a minute. This is an activist an activist court in the Iowa Supreme Court, and 3 people were up for re-election, and they were all thrown away.
Agreed.
Retention.
Bob was the face, but there were funders behind him.
Retention.
Yeah, it wasn't re-election; it was retention.
Retention, and
those three remaining judges are up this year. By the way, the last 3 are up this year, and everybody should be aware of it.
In November.
Yes.
So why isn't the family leader out there beating them up again?
Well, as I was going to say, Bob was the face last time, but there was funding behind it. Some larger groups not focus on American Family Association. Newt Gingrich was helpful in raising the funds for that. So I don't know, maybe that's the issue, and that there could be political will. But are the people still there?
Let me make a quick note about not voting for Trump or voting for Hillary. It's a little bit like the retention of judges, and I got into because I wanted to educate myself on this. If you don't vote to not retain a judge, it's like voting to retain them.
Right.
This was explained to me that, in other words, a no vote in a retention for a judge is like a vote to retain. They only get booted out is if they get a bunch of votes that say, yes, we want them removed.
Right.
So this cuts across Tim's argument that he can sit home and it not be a vote for Hillary.
Frank, I've never said I'm sitting home. Don't put words in my mouth.
Well, friend, if you vote down ballot or whatever you do, it's still going to end up being the same result. If you vote for Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, you don't vote, you vote down ballot, it's going to end up being for Hillary because it takes all hands on deck to beat her. You know it, and I know it. Ted Cruz would have taken every vote for Ted Cruz to beat her.
Okay, we'll have this discussion next week.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a foreshadow.
There you go.
Of the conversation we're going to have next week with you and your panel.
Maybe I will break cookies for that one.
Okay.
You may need cookies.
You may need to be here. All right, Tim, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for being here today. 515-244-0077 if you want to put your voice in the middle of this. I'm simply asking the question. In your life, your personal life, have you seen any loss of religious freedom or religion rights? We know Dick and Betty's story. We know the Church of Christ story. We know the baker of the cupcakes. We know the. But how about you? How about you? And maybe it's not a law. Maybe it's just intimidation. Right. Yeah. It's manipulation by the other side. It is somebody who is an antichrist. Remember, it is my interpretation of the Bible that there is not a antichrist. Everyone who is antichrist participates in the final days on this earth. Those are the non-believers. Those are the non-followers. Those are the activists. Those are the atheists. Those are the people who, no matter what, want to send the message that God does not belong in society. And what's crazy is God created society. Society is made up of his creation. God made society through the creation of you and I. I love God. Okay, 347, we've got a text line that is open at 515-809-0993 or the voice line at 515-244-0077.
I think the opening salvo in this debate was the Houston mayor.
Yes.
Who tried to confiscate the sermons of 5 ministers to see if they were preaching anything that was anti-homosexual. Now, she had to back down off of that. But that was the opening shot that's kind of going to give us what's on the horizon, what's on the agenda for the Christians.
You're absolutely right. And Mac raised a great point. For those of you who may not have faced something legally, how have you changed your behavior? Have you thought separation of church and state, which is a false nomer? It is not in the Constitution. It is in the Bible, giving clear definition to Christians what they should do, private citizens, and the charities as far as health care, welfare, and charity. But it is not a constitutional issue. And how many of you have heard that or have thought, I can't do this in that setting. I can't bring my faith into that setting, whether it's work, school. We have a lot of instances where kids are not allowed to bring specific books to the classroom. Yep. They're not allowed to bring their red and white canes. The cane.
Oh, candy canes.
Candy cane to Christmas parties with the little shepherd's poem on it, because that's faith. We have all kinds of stories about that.
Yeah, those are being limited, and if you've been limited like that, I want to know, was your kid sent home because he had a I Love Jesus t-shirt on?
Happened in Fairfield,
Iowa.
When the transgender bathroom policy came in.
All right, we'll talk about that when we come back live here on The Truth. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening to 99.3 The Truth, powered by webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Okay, 10 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then we'll be back. Just like Jesus, we'll be back. We'll be back talking about religious freedom and religious rights. All right, Bob has some texts at the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993, because that's what you have to say through modern-day technology of the text. Robert?
Okay, this is probably for Frank. If a no vote for Trump is a vote for Hillary, then is a no vote for Hillary a vote for Trump?
No. Doesn't work that way.
Unless you usually vote Republican and you're not going to now, then yes, it cuts into that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay, here, the next one is generally we only lose those rights we are willing to forego. We preserve those rights we believe impact us directly, and then we demand protection by all branches of government. Government always takes the path of least resistance.
Well, let's come back and touch on that.
I don't think government always takes the path of least resistance, do they? If that's a true statement, we suck as a community, because we ought to be standing up and pushing back, right?
Well, there's some truth in that.
You know, we ought to be preaching from the radio station, the corner, and the pulpit of what the gospel is. The whole four corners of the gospel.
But I want to come back to this because we talked about Kaepernick and I totally lost my train of thought. People are saying that our rights are what made this country great. It is not our rights. China, those folks have the same rights we do. Our rights come from our Creator. It's that our country with a Christian heritage and a Christian foundation allows and protected our rights in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. That's the difference. That's the difference. It's not that we have rights. Folks in other countries have the same rights we do. They just don't get to exercise them because their founders didn't give honor to the Creator who endowed them.
Their government won't protect those God-given rights.
Right.
And how long until our government doesn't protect them?
Well, that's
are we already there?
That's our discussion today. Whether it's the Second Amendment or today it's the First Amendment, freedom of religion. They are coming after it. Make no mistake about it.
Well, what Tamara said is critical, though. I mean, that's what you just said is mission critical. Because
you used that word twice.
I did. I'll do it again. It's critical because I think that it's not just the government per se that's lost sight of that. I think there's a lot of well-meaning conservative Christians who have fallen into that trap as well. You know, words have meaning, and meanings of words are important. And a lot of times we say, even on radio stations, that this country, for our rights. The soldiers stood up to defend our rights. Veterans. I'm free in America because of veterans. It's a controversial statement, and I've said it before. I'm not free because of a veteran. Someone didn't go to war and shoot somebody to make me free. I'm free no matter what. Those are God-given rights, and there are governments that oppress people. There have always been governments that oppress people, and if the United States is moving in a direction to oppress people more, nobody's going to be happy. Nobody's going to be happy. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, right? It stops being a good thing when a government becomes an oppressive force. We've got a government in the United States that's trying to act moral. They're trying to do moral things, make moral-based decisions without any kind of definitive moral base. It's a subjective, temporary moral, right? Right now, this is what's appropriate. Right now, this is what's okay. So we're going to go for that. As soon as that changes, then the government oppresses the people they were once fighting to defend.
On my Facebook right now is video of Bill Clinton espousing the same views that Trump is now saying.
Is that right?
Proof that moral plumb line changes unless you have a Christian foundation behind it.
You have to have something that is more solid and lasting and stood some test of time.
All right, we've got another text from the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. Robert?
Yes, freedoms are not being taken away, but there may be a cost to express them. A Christian's freedoms don't come from government, they come from God. Even if it becomes illegal to speak about God, we can still do it. Again, there may be a cost, which is what Christ told us would happen. Is he not worth it?
I want to make a comment on that text, and do I know who this person is? Okay, I don't know you, so this isn't personal. I get where your heart's coming from, I really do, and I think from a heart standpoint, you're correct. But I believe it's that attitude that has put us where we are today, because we aren't standing up and pushing back. We're saying, well, Jesus said we'd be persecuted for this, so we ought to accept persecution. I do accept persecution. What I won't do is encourage it.
Right.
What I won't do is allow it. Okay?
Or welcome it.
Yeah, or welcome it. We can't sit back. It's not persecution if you welcome it or you allow it.
It's negligence.
Yeah. I mean, so whoever wrote that, I love you and I thank you for listening and I hope you keep listening, but it's that passive heart which I know Jesus loves, but Jesus was a rebel. He was a rebel with a cause. He used language in the New Testament that would be as bad as any swear word you could say today. Brood of vipers. That's like, well, I can't say what it's like, but and Jesus pushed back. You know, when everybody reads the words in red, they always read it like, and then Jesus said, "Come, all you little children, and come to me, for you should not keep the little children away from the Lord." How do you know he wasn't saying, "Hey, dude, bring me the kids. You don't have any right to keep them from me. You don't know what you're doing to those children." I read the words in red a little bit differently than you do. It's kind of like a text. I can read a text from Tamara that says, I can't bake your toffee today because I can't move around in my kitchen because the dog knocked over the water bowl. Or it can be, I can't make your toffee today because the dog knocked over a water bowl. I feel defeated. You know, I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but Ben Mason from Hope is teaching me. I'm a 57-year-old man, and I'm being taught by a pastor to not put emotion in text.
Right.
Don't put emotion in text. It's an exchange of information. Yes, no, maybe. And I believe that you can... I know how to communicate in all realms, but I fail in texting because I need to put more LOLs and said with a whispering voice and grateful. I gotta set the tone sometimes in a text. And if you ever get an emotional text from me, many times up front it'll say, "Said in a soft-spoken, loving heart." Well,
and then you say, "You jerk."
Yeah, right. But I said it in love.
But I said it in love.
With the hashtag exclamation point and all.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But I love you. But I love you. You're sweetie. Bless your heart.
Yeah, bless your heart. Well, we'll have to see what the hashtag Never Trump people say when they hashtag Never Trump. Are they doing that in love? Who knows? I don't know. You know, texting is wonderful if you use it correctly. But if used incorrectly, it's just another tool of the accuser. It's just another tool that allows you to hurt people with your words.
Just like music and everything else.
That's right. That's right. All right, let's take our top of the hour break. Salem Radio Network News is going to update us on the latest local, or not the latest local, on the latest national news. If anything local is going on, we'll update you immediately from the 99.3 Truth Newsroom. We're coming back live here on The Truth.